Hello everyone, my name's Mike and here at Tech Car Moon we uncover tech at home and in video. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, but today I'm going to be telling you my thoughts on whether you should go for the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro base model, which are priced very similarly. So let's uncover it right now. So if you haven't watched my previous video on the MacBook Air 2020, then I'll leave a card in the corner or a link in the description below. But right now, with the power of the new MacBook Air and with the MacBook Pro base model almost being the same price right now, which model should you go for? Just a disclaimer, I am basing my opinion on the specs, benchmarks, results from tests, and my experience with the MacBook Pro base model, as well as experiences from users who have currently got their hands on the new MacBook Air 2020. So I have based my opinion on my recommended MacBook Air specification for £1,300 and for the same price the MacBook Pro 2019 base spec. So let's uncover the differences between the two. Firstly, the MacBook Air is running the 10th gen Intel i5 processor clocked at 1.1 GHz, which is a 10 nanometer processor, whereas the MacBook Pro is running an 8th generation Intel i5 processor, which even though is clocked at a higher base of 1.4 GHz, this is an old 14 nanometer architecture. Now, I have found out what processor the new MacBook Air is running, and it is an Intel processor, which is Intel basically has designed this especially for the MacBook Air. So it's unlikely that we'll see this in any other laptop in the future, but who knows? So if we compare the specs on Intel's websites between the two processors, as you can see, the i5 processor in the MacBook Air is firstly not on Intel's roadmap, which confirms my theory, which is that the processor is made from Apple. Now, apart from the obvious difference with the clock speeds and obviously the base and turbo frequencies, we can see that the MacBook Pro is obviously faster. We can also see that the TDP of the 8th generation is higher at 15 watts instead of 10 watts on the MacBook Air. Basically what this means is that the MacBook Pro can handle more power than the MacBook Air can in simple terms, which is something that we've seen from sort of other reviewers, where the thermal throttling that the MacBook Air 2020 has sort of limits the power that that processor can really push out, whereas on the MacBook Pro, even though it's an 8th generation processor, it seems to unlock that power a little bit better and doesn't thermal throttle as quick. The graphics on the MacBook Air, I would say, is about the same as I found on the MacBook Pro 2019 base model, but only in sort of certain applications. Realistically, the CPU will have more of an effect, and even though that the MacBook Pro is running an 8th generation i5, it is still quicker than the MacBook Air, as I previously mentioned. The MacBook Pro base model 2019 is about 15% quicker at photo editing tasks and about 30 to 40% quicker at rendering out videos. In terms of video editing, you can edit a 4K timeline with the view set to optimize for performance rather than for quality, and so you don't get any drop frames. It may take a little bit longer to export, but if you aren't doing any time critical uploads or work, then I would say that this could do the job. The thing is, the MacBook Air isn't designed to do sort of raw photo editing or sort of multiple layered video editing. This MacBook is supposed to be super portable and it's supposed to be a great addition in your bag. But now with its beefier CPU and graphics, if you need to do a quick edit or vlog or anything like that without many graphics, then I think that this could do the job. Just don't expect it to handle sort of denoising or sort of tracking plugins, as this will take forever. Looking at the screens, we see that both have basically the same resolution and screen size, but the MacBook Pro takes the win, as the MacBook Pro has 500 nits of brightness compared to the 400 nits of brightness found on the MacBook Air, And the MacBook Pro also supports wide P3 color, which means that the MacBook Pro is more color accurate and you should see more colors. So for video editors or photo editors who need better color accuracy, then this would be the better screen to work with. So the MacBook Pro takes the win here. Now, one workaround to this, if you're using the MacBook Air 2020 model, would be to get a good monitor like this BenQ one, which offers out-of-the-box color accuracy of 100% sRGB and Rec 709 color coverage to deliver very good image performance for only £200. The link will be in the description below if you want it. Speaking of the external display, even though the Intel spec sheet, it says that the MacBook Air processor can handle 5K screen and the MacBook Pro can handle up to a 4K screen, the MacBook Air can actually run the 6K sort of Pro Display XDR from Apple, and you can also connect a 5K screen like the LG one to the MacBook Pro 2019 model. But let's be honest, if you're buying this laptop, then you're not going to be buying a £4,500 screen for your £1,300 MacBook. Moving on to storage, this is where the MacBook Pro just literally fails. Having only 128 gigabytes of storage is just not good enough nowadays, as you will fill this up very quickly, and especially when you start adding sort of extension content in programs like Logic Pro or Final Cut Pro. I genuinely wouldn't buy any laptop now with 128 gigabytes, and if you are looking to edit videos, then this will fill up very quickly. For example, my project libraries on Final Cut Pro can reach up to 100 gigabytes with media and rendering enabled. Other projects can even reach more than that. Now, if you wanted the 256 gigabyte on the MacBook Pro, then you would need to add an extra £200. Also, just to let you know, the 128 gigabyte SSD that's found on the MacBook Pro is actually 60% slower than the 256 gigabyte version found on the MacBook Air, or if you obviously upgraded the storage to 256 on the MacBook Pro. So again, the MacBook Air takes the win in this segment. Moving on to RAM, the MacBook Air has a newer and faster type of RAM, and with my recommended configuration of 16 gigabytes, this will future-proof you well into the future, especially if you love those Chrome tabs. Firstly, the MacBook Air is running double the amount for the same price as the MacBook Pro. It is faster with the faster clock speed compared to the MacBook Pro, and the MacBook Air has the better LPDDR4X RAM instead of the LPDDR3 RAM, which basically means that the new MacBook Air is running a more power efficient but more powerful RAM. So the MacBook Air takes the win here. Now, one of the main differences that you should consider between these two models is the keyboards. I spoke a little bit about this in my previous video, which I'll link down below. Basically, the MacBook Air has the new keyboard based on their old scissor mechanism, but with some refined tweaks. However, the MacBook Pro 2013-inch base model is still running the pretty unreliable and not as nice butterfly keyboard, meaning that this is not a machine I would be able to trust because of the keyboard issues. So the MacBook Air takes the win in this section. Now, in terms of speakers and microphone sort of setups, the MacBook Air sort of does fall a little bit behind, as the MacBook Pro does sound a little bit better and the microphone is also better on the MacBook Pro. But don't be fooled, as this isn't the same sort of system as what's found on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. This is better. Also, the MacBook Air does take the win in terms of battery life as well, but it's there and thereabouts. So that means that if you want to do any sort of high-res photo editing or in-depth 4K video editing, then with everything that I've said, you should go for the MacBook Pro 2019 model, right? No. I would say if your MacBook or computer is still working and you need a little bit more power for intense tasks, then I would hold off spending the £1,300 and wait for the new MacBook Pro 14-inch model to come out. Now, I don't know exactly what specs we brought out in this model, but we should see a keyboard that will be updated from the butterfly keyboard to the Magic Keyboard, which on its own will be a win for me. And we should see better graphics, hopefully, and Intel's 10th gen CPU packed inside. I don't think we will see any extra ports or more RAM, but hopefully we'll see a bump in the base storage like we've seen on the other model. Right now, unless you really need to buy a new laptop for video editing in 4K, then I would say just hold off from this laptop. I can't recommend it. It only has 8GB of RAM, 128GB of storage, and the keyboard is the main reason I would stay away from it. If you don't do any complex sort of video editing or intensive tasks, then the MacBook Air will be more than powerful enough for you. Trust me, this is a fantastic Ultrabook, and the MacBook Air actually has some power behind it now, more than it ever has. For £1,300 too, with my recommended spec that has plenty of RAM and enough storage to last you for years. But there we have it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. But as always, this is a discussion. Please leave a comment down below on whether you agree or disagree with any of my points, and obviously why. And also tell me your opinion on which model you think you should go for. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop me a like. It really helps me out. If you want to see more content from me, then you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and join Tech Car Moon like so many of you already have. And if you haven't already, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tech Car Moon. Also, check out the links in the description below, as they are affiliated and will help support the channel. Anyway, everyone, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.